What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Prodigal Podcast. We're super excited today. We have our first outside guest joining us.
Woohoo!
So we're super stoked about that. So Sam, how you doing?
Doing good. Yeah,
Doing
doing good.
good.
It's
It's awesome.
um, nice and warm here in Texas, so um, we're having fun down here. So 76 degrees is what it was today, so
Oh my
I'll
Oh,
take
gosh.
dang.
it.
Yeah. It's actually been kind of nice here too. Today was like 55. I actually went outside and nothing like just a t-shirt and like shorts to take the dog out, so I was didn't have to
Today the
wear like
high
a
for us was 73.
There you
dang.
go.
That's tragic. Well,
He's just, yep.
and dad, I mean, it's the same weather for you, so we live.
Oh, I was outside as much as I could be.
Yeah, so
Needed a
awesome.
little sunshine in my life.
It's been cold here though, so I'm glad that we're turning a corner.
Cold like 20 below zero with wind chill.
No, but like
Okay,
below
then
20.
no.
Oh, that's pretty cool. It hasn't been that
Hmm.
bad here. What's the lowest it's got down there, Sam?
Last week it was in the wind chill got it in the to 15,
Oh,
but
That's
I
pretty
mean
good.
it was cold last week, but I mean that that happened for like 3 days and we're
so
back to
whereabouts in Texas are you?
I'm in Waco, which is basically an hour and a half south of Dallas and an hour and a half north of Austin. So kind of on the right in the middle of the two. So um,
Yeah.
pretty simple. It's on the technically it's considered the heart of Texas. So like if you know like where your heart is up here, like that's kind of where Waco is located. So
Right on.
um,
Sick 'em.
yeah, sick 'em bears.
Sick 'em Bears. Well, awesome. So yeah, I got a little, do an introduction for our guests, and so, um, most of you already heard, but this is Sam Wilkinson. He's a 2023 graduate of Taylor University in sports management and Christian ministry, which is dope. Also, my former roommate, first roommate I ever had in college. We moved around a little bit, but so super fun. Current master's in sports management candidate at Baylor University. That's why I said Sikkim Bears. Obviously, he's lived in Waco. He currently works for the American Football Coaches Association, actually doing stuff for their podcast, and doing whatever. He basically keeps that place afloat, which is awesome. He'll be humble about it, but former college football player and former college football coach, absolute unit when it comes to Trojan football. But most important, husband to Kaylee since June of 2024, and a dedicated follower of Christ. Sam, is there anything that I forgot?
I think that's pretty much it. Yeah,
Other than being like,
you put in the
Notre Dame Colts fan, but yeah,
Oh
IU
yeah, I mean
basketball,
that's
yeah.
this is basic stuff, but
Yeah.
no, been down here in Waco for a couple years now and getting used to Texas. So
Yeah. Do
When
you
did you get married? Like what
last
day?
June 29th,
June
Hmm.
29th?
the day after my
Kiara and I are
parents'
getting
anniversary.
Kiara and I are getting married the 14th of
There you
June.
go.
Yeah, so
Nice. Yeah, so we did our rehearsal on my parents' anniversary, and so
It
they
was
they
fun.
were excited about it, but
Yeah.
so we kind of stole their thunder. But
The golf ball from your wedding is back there on my ledge
oh
over
yeah,
there. So
I got
that's
married at a
awesome.
golf course. My wife was a golfer in college, and I thought it was funny if they had like little golf balls with the course logo on them, so I got one for all the guys.
Heck yeah. I also
I
have
don't know.
hanging in that closet in there. I have the jorts and flower shirt with boots that I wore for the groomsmen entrance is
There
literally
you
right in
go.
there
There you
too.
go.
So that's awesome. So Sam, one thing that we ask is kind of to get to know you a little bit. What is something that describes you or something that you enjoy that has absolutely nothing to do with what you do for work?
Ooh, that's interesting. Um, because my answer was going to be football, but I kind of work with football coaches, so
Yeah.
that's a problem. I would say I am a big. I think I'm kind of. We all kind of have a little bit of a nerd side to us, I think, and I love Star Wars. I think it's fun.
Heck
I've got
yeah.
a giant like Star Wars like desk mat in front of me that my mom bought me. that I didn't feel comfortable enough to take to work because I thought it'd be weird. But so it's sitting here on my desk at home. But yeah, I would do it, but I've got all this stuff here. But it's got all nine movies on here. It's
Oh,
got a
that's
little
sick.
picture for all of them, so it's really cool. But
Yeah.
and I've got yeah, I can show this. I've got this little Jabba the Hutt guy
Oh, that's
here
sick.
Nice.
That's
that I
awesome.
found. So yeah, I love that kind of stuff. Star Wars is fun. I'm indoctrinating Kaylee to it. She's not really a big wasn't all about it, but we're going to Disney next month, so
Oh,
I
awesome.
told her we gotta know. Um, she's got to know at least the bare bones of what happens. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
but that's what I would say because football and sports is my answer, but I
Yeah.
kind of work with sports, so.
So thinking about Star Wars, you're interested in like, Disney, all that stuff. So what kind of initially sparked your interest in that? Who or what sparked your interest in that, and why?
Um, I would say my dad probably when we were younger. My dad really liked the Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter kind of stuff.
Heck yeah.
Um, he's watched all the movies and he read the books when he was a little younger and he enjoys it. I never got really into the Lord of the Rings and stuff part of it, but
Tragic.
Well,
I
there's
got
still hope
into
for you.
this.
That's
Yeah,
tragic.
so but I got into the Star Wars stuff, and then
See, I
I've
knew
always
I liked your
enjoyed.
dad for a number of reasons. That explains a lot.
Yeah, no, he likes it. He's quiet about it. He doesn't talk about it a lot, but he does enjoy that stuff. And then yeah, I would say I kind of just enjoyed it. And then when I got to Taylor, I was around a bunch of dudes that also really liked Star Wars, and we just kind of sat and watched it all together. And
All of it.
like even during COVID, we like hopped on Zoom to like watch episodes. And even when I moved down here last summer, they released one of the new seasons of I think it was Ahsoka, and we got on
Yeah.
FaceTime once a week and watched the episode and like timed it up to watch it together because that's just what we did. So that's I definitely grew a lot more in my enjoyment of it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
We was literally every Wednesday morning after chapel, it was a 3, 2, 1, hit play. And then
Yep.
they were watching down there. So
Yep.
yeah, that's
I
awesome. So
I have a question. So one of the things that happened to me and my buddies at college is we were so scared coming in that like uh one of my he just got married, but before that he was my roommate. He did not bring any of his Star Wars stuff, any of his Marvel stuff because he was terrified that like nobody else would like it. And it
Yeah.
was like within the first day we were all like, but yeah, and then we were buddies ever since. So was
Yeah.
did y'all's experience like you were kind of like skittish talking about it at first? Or were you just like
Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit, but like I think we quickly just found out that we're all kind of just a little bit of nerds here and there in our own area and just kind of naturally happened. And then, the more time we spent together, the more time we just like would sit there and talk about it and stuff. I don't know if Clay had a different experience,
I mean, I just kind of showed up a year later,
but
and it was all pretty much cemented. I distinctly remember walking into Sam's dorm room the first time and seeing a whiteboard on their front door. And I can't remember, there was some Star Wars thing on there. I cannot remember what it was, but then there was like also a ranking of like guys from The Bachelor or from The Bachelorette. And so like I just saw that and I was like, that's different. Like I don't normally watch that. And so like I just kind of knew at this point, and then I stepped. So that was before I even got in there, and then I stepped in, and then there's Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars, Jaws, like all this stuff going crazy. Like I'm like, oh, I'm right at home. Hey, this is they're my type of people. So, but yeah,
yeah,
it all kind
I
of was
I'll
just
bring
cemented.
I'll bring this up real quick because I know we're talking a lot about this, but I saw a picture the other day come up on my like on this day so many years ago, and it was a picture of our board like on our door, and we had two of them. One of them was a quote. I think you put it up there, Clay. I don't know what the quote was, but um,
It probably was,
and
yeah.
then the other one was we had been tracking how many days since our last
Oh,
COVID like quarantine. And I took the picture because I had just changed it to 0 because we had just got like
you just got
in
smoked.
contact with
Yeah,
COVID. So
yeah,
it just said 0 and we were all sad.
yeah. That was
It's like
awful.
in the office when they have
Days
that
since,
thing. I,
yeah,
I forget the whole
days
days
since
since last.
last nonsense, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Yeah.
That's what we were basing it off of, but
That's so funny.
I
Yeah,
just thought that was funny.
I think it was that
We
was
did
a
stupid things like that, but
that was a MMA, like that was UFC fight night, right? Where we got contact traced with all the dudes in Bryce and Trey's room.
yeah, I think it
That
was.
was that was rough. Well,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So, man, so yeah, we could sit there and chop it up about goofy things that happen in Wayne gets all night. But so kind of I know we talked about it a little bit, and for those of you, if this is your first time, watching or um kind of you've watched along, you've seen the other episodes of us three kind of sharing kind of what we do on here is obviously we're called the Prodigal Podcast, and so we talk about these prodigal moments in Christian men's lives where um we firmly believe that every man has a prodigal moment, a time in their life where they've either fallen away, kind of turned away, kind of done their own thing, and kind of maybe not fully walked away from God and the church and everything, but it definitely has been a time in their life where that has not been the focus. But then we truly believe that a strong Christian man, someone who's actively seeking the heart of Christ, God brings those people back to him and brings those men back to him. And so, we'd love to kind of hear a little bit about what that is for you, kind of that time in your life. So, what era or time in your life would you identify as your prodigal moment?
Yeah, I think when I was watching the first episode, I kept thinking about like in my head of like how I would define that, what I would define a prodigal moment as. And it kept coming back to the idea of like, for me, like I've never really, I wouldn't say I've never like, been super strong and then, strayed away and like gone a separate way and then been called back. I think I just get less I don't know, less involved or less committed to it at certain points in my life and it
Hmm.
becomes less of a priority to me. Um and I like reignites the passion inside of me if something happens or
Hmm.
like that. And that's where I kind of brought the idea from.
Yeah.
It's definitely there's definitely a multiple areas in throughout my life that I would say like I could point to that of like I was just kind of lukewarm and I was just living life and focusing on other things and making other things priority and
Hmm.
had to like get taken, I something happened, some big event or something that I can't control or happened and then it like reignites something in me of like
Yeah.
I need to it's the Lord obviously coming back to me and like saying like hey it's time that you start paying attention to me a little bit more than
Hmm.
the other things so
Yeah.
I would say there's a handful of different times but I can point some of those out but
Yeah.
that's kind of where I was going at least with this.
For sure.
Something that I've brought up a few times now is kind of where my head was at when we first brought up this idea is like I feel like I have my prodigal moments every day. And it's like I'm just like, I have to constantly like tell myself like focus up, like come back, put your eyes on Christ. And so I
Yeah.
would reflect that as well of, maybe not always this huge moment, but just over time, just these consistent
Hmm.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say, um, you mentioned there's several in these, and then you kind of get back into this lukewarm thing. Would you say that do you maybe forget about those big moments, or they're not in the forefront? Kind of what has in your experience, kind of what has caused a little bit of the focus, and then the loss of focus a little bit.
Yeah. I think honestly it has to do with like me getting comfortable.
Mm.
Like I feel like the times in which I like feel that drive to um go back or feel called back, like make it more of a priority. is when I'm in a situation that's a little bit uncomfortable, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm in a time where things are just kind of all over the place, and I'm not necessarily in a comfortable spot or in a groove or what I don't know the word, but it's like I'm always like I'm everything's fine, like everything's normal.
Hmm.
And what happens to me is like I think I get in those uncomfortable moments. Okay, all right, I need to help. I need God's help. I need help to get through this. I need to spend time reading the Bible. I need to read more. I need to pray more. I need to go to church more. And then I get past that moment, and then everything kind of goes back to normal. And then
Mm.
I kind of just fall back into my normalcy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
Hmm.
I just get back into the groove of things and have to work to continue to bring myself back to that that idea, make that priority, even if
Yeah.
it's just a normal Tuesday,
Hmm.
like
Absolutely.
so.
Yeah. Um, so you mentioned there was like several like instances where you could bring up where, maybe a big thing happened or something that was out of your control happened,
Yep.
that kind of brought you back, your focus back a little bit. If you're comfortable, like, can you just give us like an example or two of kind of what one of those were for
Yeah.
you?
Mhm. Well, I mean, Cole, I think I agree like with what you said of there's moments like that every day for me. And there's hundreds of little moments like that where it's like a week, and half the week I'm feeling, just kind of normal, and then all of a sudden, something will go wrong, or a tire will get go flat, or a car will break down or something, and then everything just happens to snowball after that. But to me, like the biggest thing that came up to me was like, um while I was at Taylor, and Clay mentioned it, but I went there to play football and obviously to go to school, but I wanted to play football. I wanted to play football in college my whole life. And um that was I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to be in the NFL, but when I finally grew mature enough to understand that I was 6 foot on a good day, and not that good. Um, I have plenty of stories of those moments of like, oh, I'm not on that level. But but like I quickly shifted, like I want to play college football. Like I want to continue to play football as long as I can. Um and to make the story short, I never actually played a down of college football. And there's a lot of things that happened, but I never actually played a single snap. And
Wait,
I'll get
what?
yeah. Yep. So I'll walk you through it, I guess. So I got to Taylor. I got a scholarship to play, and my freshman year, they asked all of us, because there was a lot of us, offensive linemen, which is why Clay was the only one to come in the next year.
Let's
But
say this is the we call this BC before Clay.
yeah,
This is the
there
time
were
that
there were there were 8 of us. I think 8 was the number that they
yeah,
brought in. Eight
there was
offensive
eight.
linemen, and I think 6 of us finished all 4 years. But I yeah, I got, I was there, I practiced, everything was good. They asked all of us if we wanted to redshirt. And in my brain, as a 18, 19-year-old kid, I was like, heck yeah, might as well take, if I could, I'd rather play 4 years of full football than, play garbage time in a couple games and say I played a couple. So I said, sure, yeah, I'll do it. I'm not going to play anyways. Like, I'll play at the very least at the end of a game where we're getting blown out or something. Like, that's fine by me. And so I didn't play freshman year. I redshirted. I just practiced. And then sophomore year, COVID hit, and we played 5 games in the spring.
So tough.
And so into this my sophomore year, which was Clay's freshman year, that spring or that fall, when we were supposed to be playing football because of COVID, I injured my ankle really bad in the weight room, and
Oh my, I forgot about
I
that.
couldn't practice at all during the fall. I couldn't
Saved your
practice
life.
one bit. And yeah, I injured it really bad 2 days before my 20th birthday, and didn't
Someone
practice
else,
at all.
somebody on this call saved your life in that moment
Yeah,
though.
Clay was actually the one that saved me very well. I was doing step ups, weighted step ups and I had 130 some pounds on my back on a
Yeah, I don't know.
bar, and we were stepping up onto a bench, and didn't
That was
land
bad.
correctly and fell backwards, and Clay grabbed the bar and saved
No,
me from getting a concussion, but or worse. But anyways, I injured my ankle really bad, and so I didn't practice at all in that fall. And then this is now the spring of 2021. We were playing a spring season, which was weird. But I practiced, I think it was 3 times that spring, and I think two of them were back to back. Like one was like a 6 to 9 p.m. practice indoors, and then the next one was a 6 a.m. practice the next day.
It's
And
awful.
in the middle of that, we had a fire alarm go off
In a
in the
snowstorm.
dorm room in the middle of a snowstorm. But um, the day of that 6 a.m. practice, I had an appointment with a blood specialist that I had been dealing with some stuff on the side that I needed to get an appointment with him. And so I had an appointment with him the day of that practice in the morning. And that afternoon, he told me that I was no longer allowed to play football. I have a platelet disorder. It's called immune thrombocytopenia. It's ITP for short. And basically, what happens is I got a viral infection, which we believe was from COVID, um, and it messes up my immune system. And essentially, my immune system is fighting myself, like it's fighting its own self to when it doesn't need to be, and it's essentially destroying the platelets that my body produces, and platelets help stop blood clotting and like excessive bleeding, and playing offensive line at a college football level. And one of the biggest risks with football is concussions. And if you don't know what a concussion is, it's bleeding in the brain. Not a fun thing to have something where you can't stop a lot of bleeding. So that was the main reason. Though I had never necessarily been diagnosed with concussion, I probably have had them, but I never had it
Yeah.
diagnosed. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, that was the main reason. And like I could deal
That's
with
insane.
like if a bruise happened or something, but yeah, so I came back that day and couldn't play anymore. And so um, I had hope that I was going to be able to make it like go into the next season and be fine. We didn't really know the timeline of it at the time, but so like that summer, I at home I was working out like crazy, and I was way too heavy, and like I uh, I was working out like crazy trying to play, and then um, I had to make the decision that summer, like towards the end of it, right before kind of camp started, that I was gonna have to call it a day and not pursue it anymore. And so like I said, like I know I'm talking a lot, but um that was my whole dream, was to play
Yeah.
football and
Oh
play
yeah.
college football. And I had a great high school career. My last game to this day was a state championship game that, didn't think was going to be my last game, but it was. And so like I had a great career in high school. I loved it, a great time, but like I really wanted to play at the college level and have that as a
Yeah.
part of me. And
Uh-huh.
um I quickly realized that, that wasn't the reason why God took me to Taylor. I thought it was, but that wasn't. But
Yeah.
you know, I had to like quickly wrestle with the idea of like everything that I had dreamed, everything I had worked for was now gone. And like I like it struck me, I was, it definitely like it it was a struggle for me because, and you probably saw this firsthand, Clay, of like I had nothing to really do. And especially
Hmm.
that first year where, we had a new coaching staff come in, and I'm just like, I hope I have something to do. Like,
Yeah.
and luckily the staff that we had was great and let me help out and eventually gave me a position coaching job the next year, but like that I didn't deserve. But um like I quickly had to wrestle with the idea of like, what am I gonna do now?
Hmm.
And one thing that I continue my understanding of God's plan. And like I would say
Mm,
at the very root of everything, like my trust in the plan that he has for my life is grew immensely in
mm.
that time. Like
Wow.
It's awesome.
at that moment, like that
That's
it
so
was the
good.
only thing that made sense to me.
Mm,
Like, and yes, I was at Taylor, which is if for those of you watching that don't know the school, like it's very, it's really, really good Christian community. And like I had all these people around me that were helping lead me there. I didn't get there on my own, but like um definitely that was like the only thing that made sense to me was like that, this is all just part of a plan that I I can't comprehend. But and so that I don't know if that necessarily answered, but
No, yeah, that's
um
great.
Dude,
like
that's
that's what it was. Is I just I stuck to that plan, and I was like, I don't know what he's gonna give me tomorrow, and I still don't know he's gonna give me right now. Like
Yeah.
I mean, if you would have told me I'd be living in Texas right now, it's like no way. I'd never been to
Yeah.
Texas before I moved down here. Like so many things in my life that I could point back to this idea of like I- it's too long. I tried to figure it out. Like I tried to have everything. I had the plans, I had the dreams, I had the goals, I was putting in the work,
Mm,
and I quickly was humbled with the idea of like I have no control.
yeah.
And that was what helped me through that, and still helps me to this day. But
I mean,
yeah,
obviously that story is crazy.
yeah,
It's obviously like devastating, but like the fact, I mean, it's the fact that you never played it down makes it so much more powerful because it's like it it's you can look back the rest of your life, see all the fruit that came from that place and be like, yeah, the God just led me there. Like
Mhm.
I was, you were, it was never to play. It was to be there and meet the people you met, and so that's just so powerful to hear.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think one thing you mentioned that I loved, and you're right, like I did see a lot of that. And I think it'd have been really easy for someone in your position to just like check out, just be like, screw
Yeah,
this, like I can't believe this happened to me, and just really just kind of look inverse, like or inside, and just like turtle shell up. But the way that you went about your life, and I mean, still to this day, it's a testament to the Lord's work in your life. And so that's one thing that I wanted to mention a little bit. You talked about you had to quickly wrestle. What did that wrestling process look like for you? I know like some what I saw, but from the internal thing, like what was that wrestling process with the Lord where you kind of had the rug pulled out from under you, your plans kind of got changed up a little bit. What did
yeah,
that look like?
yeah. I think like I leaned on my parents a lot. Like they were there when when everything like. Luckily, I didn't live too far away. Like they could drive up for all the doctor's appointments I
Hmm.
had, and um, they even were like trying to drive up. I had when I first got everything kind of came to account, I had to go to the cancer center and get my blood drawn every other week,
Hmm.
and they were trying to drive up to take me to those. I was like, you guys do not need to do that. You guys have jobs, but I leaned on them a lot, like just like because that was I mean I had them and I had the my friends like Clay and the other guys that I had like, but the problem was for me was the guys that I hung out with were also football players, and they were going to practice and they were playing in
mm,
games on Saturdays. And so like I leaned to my parents a lot. And one of the things my mom and my dad have always kind of told me, it was like they kept just trust that God is doing something. Like God's
Hmm.
working it out for a reason. And it was a simple idea, but my mom and dad kept telling me that of like, you may not understand it, and like we don't understand it. Like there's
Hmm.
so many things that make no sense, but like we just have to trust that something good is gonna happen. And
Yeah.
like ever since I was a kid, like they always kind of brought that idea up of like, maybe there's a reason why this happened for, maybe, if it's a simple idea of like if if you go out and your car's doesn't start and like you can't drive to work or something like
Yeah.
the simplest way is like maybe there's a reason why you're not supposed to go to work. It's
Mhm.
like um and so that was something they had always kind of brought up and they just continued to to teach me that and tell me that and guide me in that and then um obviously like as I continued to grow in that idea, like Kaylee came along and I explained the whole situation to her, like everything. And she was an athlete, so like I went to her like her meets and stuff, and like still I'm like sitting there, and so I still have to like, I was just found people that I could talk to and that would take me in and
Hmm.
understood my situation at least, and
Yeah.
um yeah, that's how I originally went at it, and then. Um, Yeah, like I said, I was at a place where, we had chapel every other day, and like we were getting the word poured into us like crazy, and uh, yeah, just tried my
Yeah.
best. I didn't know what I was doing necessarily as a young kid, but
Hmm.
just tried my best to like read the Bible and just kind of like pray for that idea of like yeah, I don't really know why this has to happen this way, but apparently there's a reason for it, and
Yeah.
I'm just going to trust that you have an idea of what's going on and that you're guiding the situation, and so that's kind of where it started, but
Yeah.
definitely rooted with me like just turning to my parents like, look,
Hmm.
I don't even know what to do now. Like
Yeah.
Do you
this
think the
is this is
Lord
my everything.
do you think the Lord has revealed to you um some of those things that the plans that or are they kind of still unfolding?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've always kind of that I developed in that time was like there are some of the things that there are reason like the reasons for it I may never know, but there are some things that I'm gonna learn. Like there's reasons they're gonna make themselves present, and like
Yep.
um, just bringing me down here of like I work at the American Football Coaches Association, which I got because of everything that happened. I got the opportunity to coach a year as a senior in college, which doesn't normally happen, and
Doesn't happen.
and like I was 18 coaching these kids and like I had no business. I was coaching my roommate like that knew more about playing tight end than I did because I had never played anything other than offensive line. So I was coaching my roommate, which was just weird, but like he was cool with it and like
Yeah.
we had a great time. But like because of that experience, like when I came down here and I applied for the job, it's a graduate assistant job, so it's nothing crazy. But like when I applied for that job and I came down here and I started working, like he's like the guy that my supervisor, he's like, one of the things that I really liked about you was that you had coaching experience. And like the thing about it
Boom.
is like, by me having a graduate assistant job here while I'm at Baylor, it pays for 80% of my master's degree. And like I know that's a little thing, but like I probably wouldn't have got
That's
that.
huge.
Yeah,
As
I
as
probably
someone who is still paying off his student loans, no, that's not a little thing, dude. That
No,
that
I
that's
still I still have
huge.
loans. Don't get me wrong, but no, they like by having a graduate assistant job, I got 80% of it covered, and like, and I probably would, I may have gotten it. Like I can't say that I wouldn't have gotten it without because of just by having football experience, but like having coaching experience and being able to like understand what it's like to be a coach at a college level helps me out a lot and was really important to him. So like that's one of the big things that I would say is like a clear idea of that coming to fruition and that plan, but there's still so many other ideas that I don't know and may not know
Hmm.
for years to come. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Did
some
you
of the
Okay.
we
stuff.
did you
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
go on.
yeah.
You're good. Go.
I was just gonna say, did you meet your wife at Taylor?
yes,
So there's a great one, you
yes,
know.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
a there's a great
yeah. I mean, just in general, like the idea of me going to Taylor, like I thought had an idea of why I was going there. I thought I was going to play football, and that didn't end up happening. And uh, I think some of the plans have come to fruition as well with that idea. Like, um, well, I love my high school experience, but I really struggled with the public school kind of um, just the guys were doing things that I was not about. And like I wanted a group of people that were like-minded, and I found that at Taylor, very much so. And um, like-minded dudes that aren't gonna like sit there and
Yeah.
talk bad about, women, or like talk bad about, or talk about how they're out and they're 16 and out drinking, and I'm like, you're in high school, like there's no reason to do that. Like
Yeah.
I never did that. I was never one to get invited to anything because they knew I wasn't going to come. Like, so I was just kind of on my own, and I found that group there, and obviously I found Kaylee, and she's a big blessing to me. So um,
Yeah. That was one thing that I was gonna say is like a lot of people in your situation would have, and I guess I kind of already said it, but like kind of looked inward and through all this time of like, and that's why I asked kind of what that wrestling process was for you, because from what I saw is, through this time where it's just like a dark time for you mentally and you're like, what's going on? A lot of people would kind of just be in their room, kind of float through life, kind of be passive. And I've never seen somebody going through that level of like frustration and anger and hurt serve more than you did in terms of res life. Serve like you were a coach, like you were there for every single time that myself, any of our other boys, like any of us needed that. You were there for them, and I think that that just speaks to what that the Lord was teaching you, and just I mean who you are as a person and who He created you to be. But I think also um, what the Lord was teaching you through that time. It's like I've never seen someone get the rug pulled out from under them and then be so ready and willing to like pivot and then just go at it with 100% effort. And that was
yeah,
inspiring. I think I mean, for those of you that don't know, like that's inspiring. That's the reason that you became a coach. That's the reason you have the thing now. It's like it was inspiring to everybody, at Taylor and our friend group for sure. And we were, super blessed to be able to just watch that. Obviously we wanted to play with you, but it was like I think that we would have, as fun as that would have been, we would have missed out on seeing such like a godly leader being formed right in front of us, which I think was a blessing in and of itself. So yeah, just that was
Mm.
it was awesome. It was really cool to see.
I'm just a
Where,
little like
yeah.
I'm still a little floored with you never played it like Sam,
That
you
is
know this
crazy.
because we
That's
were at every game. We were at every game cheering on the O line, cheering on the tight end, cheering like we were just there, right?
mhm,
And lots of times we were sitting right next to your parents.
mhm,
How in the world it never occurred to me that you never played one down
yeah,
because your parents were there
mhm,
every game.
yeah,
Like this, that just blows my mind. And that shows, and just to kind of reaffirm that, that shows like your desire to just be used by the Lord,
Hmm.
even when you feel like life's kicking you down, beating you down, right? Like you're still finding ways to serve. That's the key. Like that, you just
mhm,
kind of nailed it. In the first podcast, we were talking about, when you're in that moment, remember,
yeah,
remember who the Lord is. Remember what
yeah.
the Lord's done. Psalm 77 says, I'll remember the deeds of the Lord. I'll remember his miracles. Psalm 103 says, don't forget what God has done in you.
yeah,
Man, like that's incredible.
mhm,
That you walked through that so humbly, but also what appeared to me, again, sitting on well, I guess I can't even say the proverbial sidelines. I was literally on the sidelines
yeah, yeah,
watching all of that take place. Like, dude, you have a phenomenal testimony of how the
yeah,
Hmm.
Lord has preserved you through
yeah,
some like some destroyed dreams, right?
yeah,
And then on the flip side, I'm going to just throw this out there too. As you were talking about, and again, I got a front row seat to see this friend group formed that I've told Clay, I don't even know how many times, is like awesome that he played. football in college. Awesome that he played at Taylor, but the group and the friends that you guys have formed, that is not normal. Like you need to hear, like I've told Clay this, I don't know how
Yeah.
many times, and I've told everybody else, but Sam, I've not gotten to tell you this. How tight you guys were then and how tight you guys are now. Like that's not normal. And that is totally man, I'm just reminded of Ecclesiastes 4 where it says two are better than one, right? And like your group, the O line and the the lone tight end, right? Uh like comes in and it's just a really, really unique situation. And what you guys have formed, trial by fire, watching each other walk through, some moments where they've been beat down, where they're struggling physically, struggling, spiritually, struggling, emotionally with whatever. And watching each of you, when one is down, the others, man, nope, you're not staying there. Come on,
Yeah.
get up. Like it's just
Yeah.
been a tremendous blessing to watch that. And so
Yeah.
like we've seen a lot of those prodigal moments overcome um and overcome the right way
Mhm.
for the glory of the Lord and for the good of each other. It's been really, really cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Then I will say, like, you know, I when I got to a point where I got to that point where, football, when they took that away from me, I was like, I have nothing. Like, there's nothing for me to do. And like, I'm not one to just sit back and just let days just go by. Like, I need to have something to do. And like I said, like the only real option for me was to just do everything I could to just serve people. And like that's I think that's a big part of who I am, is just the service. And it's always been. And like even when I was just starting out at Taylor, like when they were asking me like, what do you want to do with your life, I was like, I don't really know, but I just want to help people. That's all I really want to do. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how that's going to work out, but I want to help people. And I think like I just, it was God calling me back to, like, not necessarily that I was so far away, but like I wasn't a super great Christian. Like I knew what was going on. I knew, like, I went to Taylor for a reason. Part of it was why I wanted to grow my faith, but like I knew that I'd been going to church since I was a kid. My parents were youth pastors. Like I knew what was going on, but like I hadn't necessarily like really developed it for myself. And um I it was God saying, "All right, it's time. Like
Mhm.
this is how I'm gonna get you." And um, it's it. He brought me right back to Him, and has continued to bless me in many ways that I don't deserve, but because of things that have happened like that. So, but
Yeah. I think that's
Man,
what I think that's what's so great. I mean, I've shouted out you and Liam several times in the past few episodes, but just like remembering and talking about this stuff is, I think, is so important because like you mentioned, it's like you said yourself, like you had a time in your life where something crazy would happen out of your control, you'd be focused on it and then it would kind of go away. And so and then something else would happen and it'd bring you back. So I think highlighting this stuff is so important. And like both of them mentioned, like your story is awesome and it's such a blessing to hear. We've kind of just went down through we've hit on a lot of stuff, which is great. I kind of had one question is, as you look back, we could just talk about, the story with you at Taylor. Like, what is a piece of advice that either someone gave you that really helped, or that you wish someone would have told you kind of right before that time in your life, or maybe right in the thick of it?
yeah, I think like I said, I was just kind of starting out, and like, this is not to discredit anything that happened before Taylor, but like I was a kid. I was so involved in the church that sometimes I, like, just wasn't really like about it, and
Mm-hmm.
I spent so much time there that it like became a task. And
Mm-hmm.
when I got to Taylor, like that was a goal of mine, was to just continue to grow in my faith. It's the whole reason why I did the Christian ministry minor, was like I just want to learn how to. I basically told myself, if I can teach other people and learn how to teach other people, I should be pretty good in my own understanding. So if it at least will help me.
Yeah.
And like so I didn't necessarily have the idea in my head of like um God's plan, perfect plan that may not make sense, but I didn't really have that idea in my head. And I think like, my mom and dad talked about it when we were kids, but like it wasn't a fundamental part of my life. And um, I think when it just kind of hit me in that situation of like, my parents are saying like you just have to trust that there's a reason behind this and that God has a reason for it. And obviously there's a ton of reasons that I will never, like I said, I'll probably never know a lot of them, but um there's a reason for it all, and just have to continue to trust in the Lord's plan for our life. And it's difficult. It really is. Like I was telling you, Clay, but right now I'm reading through Job because I really wanted to read through it because I was like, I just want to see what this is all about. It's Don't get me wrong, it's difficult. But like it's an idea of like Job is like he's getting just absolutely beat and destroyed, and he never really wavers in that. He stays committed to what he knows is true
Hmm.
and the plan. Like he knows that there's some bigger thing at work,
Yeah.
and his friends have no idea, and they think they do, but they
They think,
don't.
yeah, so they think they do.
And he just is so firm in his idea that something bigger is happening. And he said, if you would just listen to me, you would know. And like, I think just that idea of like just trusting in the Lord's plan, no matter what, it's really hard. Like when you get everything taken away from you, or, there's all sorts of things that could happen. Your house burns down, or like, you break a leg, or, all sorts of things that can happen. Like you, you lose all your money, or like all of these things that can happen. Like it's really difficult because you're in the lowest point. It's like you're so far down. It's like you have no, like, wow, it doesn't make sense for you to turn to God because like that just doesn't make sense to normal people. But like, we're different. Like
Mhm.
we have to just continue to stick to the idea that, the Lord has a plan for everything, and like um, it may not make sense.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing for me. And my mom and dad kept telling me that like it doesn't make sense right now. Like I know you're so confused and we're confused, and there's so many questions that we have. Like, why me of all people? Like I had COVID for a day and a half and it was a sore throat. That was it.
Hmm.
My parents were in bed for 2 weeks. They couldn't move. It struck like it tore them down. But like I was the one. Like why like just all
Wow.
these things. It doesn't make sense. But like they just continued to instill that into me. And other people were telling me that, well, like you guys as well, like all my friends that I was around. And just the idea of like, look, like it doesn't make sense, but you just got to keep pushing forward. So
Yeah.
At some point we should have Sam's dad on to kind of tell the same story
That'd be
from his
awesome.
perspective.
That would be sweet. That would be awesome. One thing that you said that, and kind of one thing that we ask is like if you have a message to, the modern Christian guy, like what would it be? And I think you kind of just summed it up is like having this radical trust. One thing that you said though that I loved is like when the world looks at us and the world sees someone that hits rock bottom, like it doesn't make any sense to them to turn to God. Like why am I gonna do? But then you just said we're different, and like the way that that's not something that like that's just your mode of operation because it's been instilled in you this like throughout this entire time. Like I don't know what's going on, but I know for one thing, like I'm gonna trust God. Like that's gonna be my default setting. I think if so many of us would be our default setting, I think we would have a piece that it's so apparent that you have gained throughout this time. Um, and I think that's just so profound is that it's like, no, yeah, it doesn't make sense, but we're different, so we do this, right? And I think if we would just
Yeah.
have that resolve, more people would have that resolve. I think there would be a lot more peace. And I think that's so important. I think it's so great that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so
I
good.
can't say I can't say I'm perfect in that,
Well,
obviously.
no, no,
Like
no, no.
there are times where like
There's times when
things
you get like pulled over, right? And there's like
yeah,
a tail light above your
yeah,
license
yeah,
plate that's out, or
yeah, and I get all upset and like,
I
all
won't. We're
this
not.
stuff. Like
I won't rehash that story.
but like there I can't say I'm perfect in all of that. Like, I'll just keep this brief, but like over the past, month or so, like a lot of like really crazy bad things have happened and
Hmm.
like all kind of at the same time and like just mounts one thing after another after another and it's just like, oh my gosh, can we just stop having all of these things happen? But
Yeah,
like I have to it's a continual reminder of myself of like there's just gotta stick to the plan and like just trust that there's a reason that all of this is happening. So,
that's
but
awesome.
One
That's
one thing I've learned is, um, you know, it's and this is kind of relating and reflecting a bit of what you're talking about. It sparked what I was obviously I'm studying worship leading, and so that's what I learned about a lot. But one of the things that I've recognized recently is as a leader, and this can translate to as a Christian. It's okay wherever you are mentally and spiritually is okay as long as you're wrestling with it and you're not complacent, you know? Um, and I think that's where it's like there's the two. It can be so easy to sit either get in either camp that it's not okay to be anywhere bad, and that's kind of what pushes us to the other camp, which is complacency. But really, it's this middle of like, no matter where you are, even if you're in a good spot, are you wrestling with the
hmm
Lord? Are you wrestling with these concepts? And so, yeah, it's just this such a cool story. And I'll also say this: man, you cannot pay me money to say that I would put so much money on the fact that I've seen you play football.
Same.
I mean, like that.
Not
I'm
even
like,
joking. Same.
I
Well,
would.
well,
no, the yeah.
they might have.
I'll take this like my only like actual snaps that I ever took as a Taylor Trojan were at a preseason scrimmage my freshman year at
Oh,
Wheaton
true.
College.
That is
And it was on
true.
my birthday.
It was on your
And
birthday.
I want to
That was
say
the Lord. The Lord was like, "Here you
five
go.
or six
I'll give you
snaps.
this."
I really, and it was like this fifth quarter thing we did after the actual scrimmage where like all the people that didn't get a chance to do it in the actual scrimmage got like to take like 3 reps.
Yeah.
And that was it. I practiced a lot. Like I practiced the whole freshman year and like I have video proof that I practiced. Like
It's
there's
just
still a picture. There's still a video I have saved in my phone from like a snow practice we had, which was like one of the last practices I had. Um, I have there's physical proof at Taylor University that I practiced.
I was hoping you were gonna bring that up.
We did some stuff inside, and I had a knee brace on, and I left a giant scratch on the wood basketball floor. So when I fell,
It's
so.
legendary.
It's still there, I'm sure. So,
Oh, 100%. Has to
it
be.
wasn't
Nice.
the main game floor, it was the practice floor, but there's physical proof at Taylor. But yes,
Yes.
I never actually played in a game. So
yeah.
I was
That's
dressed for games, but never played in a game.
It's
Yeah,
wild.
you couldn't have convinced me of that. Like you
and then
just
also
couldn't.
it goes with like me not understanding
I
football. I'm
think
like, I,
yeah,
I
I
would I
think
would just
that's
be like, I
more.
would be like, man, Sam did a great job that snap.
You'd be
They're all
like,
looking good out
You're
there.
good.
yeah, call yeah, yeah, that's awesome. So,
One of the
well,
things that number one, Sam, thanks for jumping
yeah,
in and for
For sure.
sharing this. Here's why. I know that there are going to be people listening to this
absolutely.
that are going to recognize themselves in some of what you said, and they're going to hear, man, he here's how he got through that. He just kind of, you know, he just kind of grinded out. Like you just, it didn't, I didn't. It just, you said we're built different, right? Like it just wasn't in you to not do this. And so what a way to call to remembrance. No, I'm here for a reason. God's got this. I don't get it, but okay. Um, and I think the other thing that is, and this has come up in one or two of our podcasts before, I think the other thing that's going to speak volumes, or I hope continues to speak volumes, is the need for a godly man to have godly men around him.
Hmm.
Whether that's, four or five or six like you guys had, or whether it's one, or maybe one almost, right? But
Yeah.
recognizing the need that, like, I can't do this alone, and I'm gonna have to have I need to find somebody, and if I can't find somebody, I need to be that person to someone else until God sends me someone, right? Like, it's just, that's really, really crucial. Somebody that's going
Yeah.
to speak truth into my life, that's going to help pick me up when I'm down, and that I can pick up when they're down. It's just so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Cole, you got anything else?
No, I'm good. I've said my piece.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, like
Well, shout out to your dad for trying to teach you about Lord of the Rings. You got to
it's
swing back
true.
around there.
True. I
Yeah.
Jim, it was a valiant effort. I don't know.
No, there's a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of
there
That's
it
things
is
that,
right there.
Sting. That's
yeah,
a
There's Frodo's
Lord of the
sword,
Rings sword.
Bilbo and Frodo.
That's fine.
he taught me a lot of things. So that was
Yeah.
just one that never
That's true.
stuck. So
Yeah, but that's awesome. Well, hey, we really appreciate you coming on tonight and sharing with us. This was awesome. It was definitely I was super excited when you excuse me when you agreed to join us and I definitely think that the Lord was in the midst of this conversation and I think he's going to
Mhm.
use this for sure. So I'm super thankful for that. So I appreciate you. Love you, dude. That was great.
no, I think what you guys are doing great is great. Like, I think the cool thing that I'm excited to see just as a outside viewer is like just hearing the variety of interpretations of the prodigal moments
Hmm.
for people and the difference that it looks for everybody. But like, I think at the end of the day, the main idea is going to stay the same. Like,
Yeah.
you may not have thought about it, but like the Lord is continuing to draw you back to Him.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
you may be so far gone that you have no idea that you're like, there's no way I could go back.
Yeah.
But the Lord's continuing to draw us back. And it's evident everywhere in the Bible of like, Jesus didn't speak to the godly people. He spoke to the people that were so far away that it didn't make any sense, but he continued to
Yeah.
bring people to him and use them as vessels. And I think it's just going to be awesome to see that. So I'm
Yeah,
glad I
man.
could partake a little bit in it and
Amen. Absolutely.
share my
Absolutely,
version
man.
of it. So
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. So, well, if no one else has anything else, that'll settle it for tonight. We appreciate you guys tuning in to the Prodigal Podcast. We're super excited to be releasing more content, getting more people like Sam on here, godly men who have had a great story to tell and a great story of redemption. So, we're praying for you guys. We love you, and see you guys in the next one.